Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante live from Gotham. Oh, yeah. What is up? We're still demonetized by our corporate CIA-backed overlords over at Google that own YouTube. So as you see on the scroll below, support our show, patreon.com/Graham Elwood to get a bunch of bonus content. And you get the Graham Goes to Russia documentary, and then rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Blockchain cryptocurrency. What does blockchain mean? It's transparent. It means the whole platform isn't on one little server that they can come and buy and snatch up. That's what it means. Cryptocurrency means us content creators are paid in cryptocurrency. So we actually get more value for our content over time. And they don't censor us over there. Support the show. One of the reasons I do this show is because the environment is collapsing. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to be too late. I've said this before in the show, and I will continue to say it. If we don't do something about it, it doesn't. If we fix everything else, racism, wealth inequity, we fix everything else, but we don't really tackle the environment, we're done. Which is why we need to stop this outdated and ridiculous rhetoric. Oh, China and Russia. We need to work with these superpowers and say, hey, we're the three superpowers. We have all the money and the resources. How do we fix this and save the planet? That's what we should be doing. And I will add this, by the way. The constant China rhetoric bad that comes out of the media, that also helps fuel the Asian racism. The racism towards Asian people, like this horrific shooting that just happened in Atlanta. I'm sorry. It's not just racists that were, emboldened under Trump. This country has had a 150-year history of racism towards the Chinese and all Asians, starting with the Chinese Exclusion Act in like the late 1800s. We talked about that on Government Secrets. So let's work together with China and Russia so that we can fix the environment. Because there's a lot of big problems to deal with here. Like this. Carbon negative crops may mean water shortages for 4.5 billion people. What does this mean? There's a lot of, I've talked about this before in the show. Building, planting trees helps reduce carbon, and planting crops for people and carbon neutral is good, but they just did a study, and this is a valid point. And I'm going to show you some answers, though, some other solutions that are in there, which is going to take a global effort. Like there was trying to be a global effort to stop the pandemic from spreading, right? America still sanctioned Iran and other countries in the middle of a pandemic, which is horrifying and an act of brutality and just dumb. What this article is going to, and I'm going to show you in a second. So if we plant all these trees and all these crops to feed everybody and all this stuff, there's still going to be a lot of water we're going to need for that. So based on our current system, it's going to cause water shortages, right? Billions more people could have difficulty accessing water if the world opts for massive expansion in growing energy crops to fight climate change, research has found. But the technology known as bioengineering, bioenergy, and carbon capture and storage, BECCS, could prove a cure worse than the disease, at least when it comes to water stress. I got some opinions on this in a second. Fabian Stenzel at the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Germany and his colleague project that the water needed to irrigate enough energy crops to stay under the 1.5 centigrade limit would leave 4.58 billion people experiencing high water stress by 2100. Stenzel still expects BECCS will be needed, but as just one of a suite of approaches, such as burning biomass to put charcoal in soil, reforestation, direct air capture, and more. We will need some sort of negative emissions because as humanity, we are stupid and slow. I like this guy. This is another warning that we cannot rely on BECCS at the scale of hundreds of millions of hectares, as this has adverse consequences for water. The more we reduce emissions now, the less we will need to rely on negative emission technologies like BECCS in the future. So there's several things to address here, which is right. Like there is not going to be one single solution to reverse climate change. And it's valid to bring up, hey, if we plant all these crops that are going to be good for this one area, we're going to have a water issue. So there's a lot of things. What this is good, and this is a good study to read about, because it goes, okay, let's look at all of the pros and cons of this and what kind of things we need. First of all, we don't do enough in terms of water reclamation. And I say this, living in California, we had really bad droughts, and I'm sure we will again. In like 2015, I believe, we were coming off like a 5-year drought. It was bad. And the then governor, he's no longer governor, Jerry Brown, issued all these measures to reduce water, right? And they started, like in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles and LA County, I think it was all of LA County, they started giving away or selling at a discounted rate these 50-gallon drums that had little water spigots on the bottom. So instead of when it rains and it just goes down your gutter and goes into the sewer and goes out in the ocean, which is a dumb thing in California, you could capture the rain landing on your roof and then hook a hose up to it. So on the days it wasn't raining, you had all this water, so you didn't have to use the city's water supply. So that can be adopted on a mass scale. That's for starters. Like, let's get that going on a mass scale. Then you have, again, in Southern California, this horrific system of concrete rivers that whenever it rains, it just goes out into the ocean, which does two things: pollutes the ocean and then wastes all this rainwater. So that water should be captured, cleaned, and put back into the water table. So we're not polluting the oceans and we're reusing rainwater. So those things need to happen too, right? So before we say, let's not plant a lot of trees, let's first get on the other side of this is, are we being as efficient as possible with our rainwater? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You've got waterless urinals that, like the city of Santa Monica, where I live, implemented a while ago, several years ago. One urinal uses 40,000 less gallons of water than a water one. Stuff like that. Having gone to college in Arizona and done shows there, most people in Arizona don't have grass yards. Some people still do, but most of them don't. They have desert landscapes with succulent plants and cactus that don't need a lot of water. In California, we still have people all throughout LA, nice grass yards. And come on, man. No, the city of Los Angeles, again, implemented a plan where you could get a discount or free, but it was limited amount of money. So it ran out quickly, where you could get that fake turf, which is actually recycled tires, on your backyard. Don't have to water it. It's doesn't use as much water. So your water bill goes down. So we need to address a lot of those things first. Again, this is good information to have. So now that we know this, if we want to put all these BECCS plants in there, we need to address the water issue right now. And this is why, rather than demonizing Russia and China, but Graham, they do authoritarian things. Yes, they do. No one is worse than the United States empire. No one is worse than the United States empire. Putin hasn't killed 85,000 kids in Yemen. The United States has. Russia and China, 6 million foreclosures. Was that China? Was that Putin? Nope. That was America. Contaminated water in Flint, Michigan? That was America. 1 million dead Iraqis from a war based on lies? That was America. That was not China. That was not Russia. Who's bombing 6, 7 countries in the middle of a pandemic? America, not China, not Russia. So we need to work together. And if we had real leadership in this country, which we are never going to get from the Democrats or Republicans, this two-party system will not allow it to happen. I don't care if you join either one of these parties and you have the noblest of intentions. You're going to acquiesce, the squad. You're going to just tweet and do nothing, Ro Khanna. You're going to do nothing. You're going to just talk and give up, Bernie. You're going to just, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Or you're going to try and then endorse Joe Biden and then quit Congress, Tulsi. So forget that it's not going to happen with the Democratic Party. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So we need real leadership. We definitely need a third party in this country, but we need someone to realize that this is the existential threat. And you turn on the corporate media. First, you had Trump, idiot that he was, saying, the China virus. No, don't blame fucking China for that virus, you moron. That's like blaming hurricanes on Barbados. That's stupid. And now you've got Biden, the soft and furry, cuddly, xenophobic fascism of the Democrats. It's fascism with a rainbow flag. They're still like, China's a threat, and China. You watch all the corporate media, people, the Democratic strategists, they're talking China, which fuels racism towards the Chinese. Like that horrific thing, that shooting that happened in Atlanta, and China and Asian, all Asian people of any Asian background are getting targeted because dumb racists don't know or care. They're too dumb to know the difference between the Korean culture, the Japanese culture, Vietnamese, Chinese. They're all these drastically different cultures. And people, when they say that, when they say those dumb things, like, whatever, Japan, China, I'm like, oh yeah, Germany, Britain, what's the difference? What, Sweden, Ireland, what the fuck? That's all the same. They're just white people talking in weird accents. Like it's dumb. It's really dumb. So rather than spew, rhetoric that hurts people in America and fuels more divides in the countries, we should be working on solutions. If we got China's technology involved and got that whole country involved in climate change, in reversing climate change, look, that's a country in 2015 that they have a huge smog problem. They have really serious environmental issues that went, all right, they basically doubled, almost tripled their amount of wind turbines produced than the United States. They just said, we're going to do this. And they started making more. And they're exporting that to areas like Africa and stuff like that. So what if we all got together and did this? This is a legitimate concern. Someone can come up with a solution. I bet you we put the best brains in the world together rather than brains on how to war and blow someone up because they want to get off the petrodollar. How about we all get off the petrodollar? How about we all get off of oil? Fossil fuels are murdering the planet. Shut up. I don't want to hear about them anymore. Let's find solutions. Hey, electric vehicle batteries, how do we dispose of them? Great question. Let's find a solution. Let's find solutions. Not demonizing China that we've been doing since the late 1800s. We put the Japanese in internment camps, right, during World War II. What we did to North Korea in the Korean War. What we did in Vietnam. The research really doesn't account for ways that BECC's hunger for water can be curbed, as I was just discussing, such as by picking the right trees to plant in high altitudes with fewer people. Right. So there's nuances to this study to where we can find solutions. Overall, if we're going to plant all these things, it's going to take this much water, and at our current rate, it's going to cause shortages. Great. That's a great study. That's fine math to use. So let's find solutions. As I've said too about reversing climate change, it's going to be region by region. Mountain communities are going to have different problems and different solutions than a coastal community will have. Like what I just said, what LA should be doing every time it rains, rather than dumping that water into the ocean. And these facilities are already in existence. There's one in Santa Monica called the SMRF, the Santa Monica Urban Runoff Facility. And they took one of these rain gutters that was draining out into the ocean, and they recycled it. They take the water and they recycle it, and it's amazing. But they just need to do that all along the coast or further upstream. I don't know, wherever you can put it in there. And I don't know, here's a crazy idea. Put a bunch of Americans to work. Maybe there's a bunch of people that haven't been working for a year because of a pandemic. I don't know. We just printed $1.9 trillion in stimulus money that isn't really going to change anybody's lives other than the short run. A one-time tax break if you have children. If you don't get the tax break. A one-time tax break isn't going to do it. Isn't going to pull you out of poverty. because there's a lot of other solutions out there that I've talked about before in the show, but I want to bring them up again. Algae-fueled bioreactor soaks up CO2 400 times more effectively than trees. And algae grows in the ocean. You don't need to add extra water to algae. It soaks up CO2. So there's two things we need to do with the CO2. Stop, get rid of the emissions, be done making emissions by 2030. Make that commitment. The UN came out with that study in 2018 that said if we don't get off of oil, if we don't stop burning fossil fuels by 2030, it's going to be too late. That was 3 years ago. We have less than 9 years. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris looked into the camera during the debates and said, we're not going to ban fracking. So we need to get rid of those assholes because they're not going to help us. Fracking absolutely needs to be banned. But what about the jobs? Put them to work doing this. Put them to work doing any of the other things I've talked about. Free college. Get young people studying ways that we can get these young, hungry brains working. Every college in America should have environmental, climate change, how to find solutions. And someone's going to come up with a solution at some community college somewhere because they got it for free. That's what's going to happen. Will it come out of Harvard? I don't know. Those kids might be too busy, licking their silver spoons to come up with anything other than, hey, how do I become the next Mark Zuckerberg? But it'll be someone like in one of these high impact communities, which in many cases are communities of color or just low income communities that get impacted because that's where they put the oil refinery is in the poor community. That's where they dump the water downstream is this poor community because they don't have the money to hire the lawyers or to lobby the politicians to get the environment changed. So that's what it's going to take because there's other solutions out there. So they can soak up. So we got to reduce. We got to just stop the whole planet needs to be off of the internal combustion engine. No more fossil fuels by like 2035, 2030, we got to just say no more. So stop with that and absorb the CO2s 400 times the rate. So think of the money, compared to how many trees it would take to do this, planting the trees, the water, as we just discussed. So now the algae, cheaper, easier, and more efficient. So it just answers the problem that was raised in that study. Not to mention olivine. I've talked about this. It's a carbon eater. A simple rock is being put forth as a solution to global warming. This came out in 2015. I did a story on this last year. Olivine, and maybe I've called it olivaria, I've mispronounced it. Anyway, olivine is this mineral that readily grows. It's not like we got to plunder the earth to get the solution. No, you put it on the beach in the sand, it absorbs CO2 and then buries it deep under the water. It's a process that naturally occurs, but it takes about 1,000 years. If you put this olivine on every beach, it would reduce the CO2s, which would reverse climate collapse that we're in right now. So algae and just putting olivine on the beaches, they don't take water. Now, maybe the mining of this does take some. I don't know how much water it takes. My guess is, though, it's not as much as the planting of the trees and the food that was in that study that they talked about. Algae, olivine, solution. Problem, solutions. They just need mass adoption. And what if we had real leadership in this country, not bought by the billionaire war machine, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. Joe Biden said we need a middle ground on climate policy. You want to know why? Because that old man is going to die before the climate collapses. Same with Nancy Pelosi. Same with Mitch McConnell. They're going to be dead before the climate collapses and we're all living in a hellscape. They're going to be dead. They don't care. They're old. They made their money. They don't care. Joe Biden can barely make it up a flight of stairs. He doesn't give a shit if in 20 years from now the world is dead because he'll be dead. Your kids, my nieces and nephews that might not see their 50th birthdays, they don't care. They made their money. They're gone. Pelosi's got her ice cream fridge. She doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care. And here are clear solutions. A real leader would go, let's do this. And go, hey, China, hey, Russia, I'm going to get rid of my nukes. You get rid of yours. Let's fix the planet and we can do this. Let's get India on board. Let's do this. Let's pull people out of poverty and let's fix the planet. Solutions are there if you want them. Voting for the lesser of two evils isn't going to fix this solution. Anyone who says, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils, listen to your own words, write them down if need be. Lesser of two evils. So you're still voting for evil. Hey, I mean, Ted Bundy didn't eat his victims like Jeffrey Dahmer, so I'm voting for Bundy. Bundy 2024. Also, I might add, since the federal government is a waste of space and both parties are useless, start implementing this on a local level. You got a beach near you? You got a lake, a stream that has sandy beaches? You could do this in your community, your state. You have a coastal state? You live in a coastal state? Gulf, East Coast, Atlantic, Pacific, Hawaii, Alaska? You could implement this in your state. You could just do this in your state and say, look what our state's doing. You could do this. Your business could do this. Your school district could do this. Get your kids involved in this. These are real solutions. Voting for the Democrats or the Republicans is a death sentence. We're all going to die from that. So we're going to die from that. Thanks for supporting the show, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. All that stuff is critical to keep the show going. I don't get any ad revenue because I've been demonetized by YouTube. So please support us at Patreon, Rockfin. And my website is now up with Political Vigilante merch. You can get this cool logo on t-shirts and everything else. And this logo on t-shirts and stuff. Go to GrahamElwood.com where all my merch is available. You get cool stuff and you support the show. Thank you so much. Shave your knuckles for justice. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/GrahamElwood and rockfin.com/GrahamElwood where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at GrahamElwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.